So Kevin, we have been talking about how to handle workplace jerk, either it's the boss or the coworker. And what if is the all worst case scenario that I am frequent in contact with the jerk, it's harming my personal, emotional, mental health, and my performance is suffering. So all the worst case scenario, then should I quit? And how soon should I quit this workplace culture that is so toxic? Let's say it's not just one jerk, but so many people in this company are jerks. So in that case, what should I do? Let's say the workplace just filled with disrespect, right? If we give some example, right? Filled with disrespect, abuse behavior, selfish, even unethical decision and unethical process in the company, then what should I do if I find myself in such a workplace?
Well, I'm assuming that you have different values than this workplace, right? Because if you agree with them, then this is paradise for you. So I'm assuming he has a question because I'm not one of these guys. I don't like the way they work. And so if it is that pervasive, it sounded like you should think about finding something else. Because what is the likelihood that you can change the environment? What is the likelihood that the environment just get better by itself automatically? Unlikely. If it is something from the top all the way down to the middle, and all of the people who survive in this place survived because they behave this way, then I think the decision is really very simple. Unless you want to be one of them, I think you need to just get out and do something else.
So should I quit immediately before I line up the next job, or should I stay there and in the meantime I find another job? So essentially, how soon should I quit if I decide to quit?
Everything else being equal, I would always suggest that you find a job first, because first of all, it's very hard to negotiate and bargain with someone if you currently have no job in terms of salaries and stuff like that. And also, being a responsible adult, you have bills to pay and you might have family to support. It does not make sense for you to take this risk just because you don't like this place, but the place is not firing you, right? I would say take it with a grain of salt that you're doing this not because you love the place, but because you want to be responsible and you want to do rational decision making so that your future is not just a response to an emotional moment that, hey, I hate this, or I'm really getting fed up with this, or I'm really getting frustrated by this, which is easy to do, especially if you hang around some friends and share the misery together over a bar and get drunk, and the next day you say, I'm going to quit. Could happen, right? But for that bravery of 2 seconds that you enjoy the satisfaction of telling your boss, I quit, you now have to face the prospect of how long you take, is to get the next job. So for that reason, I would say, if you need some time off, take a few days off, okay, so that you can just calm down and just recover a little bit away from that toxic environment. That allows you to some clear space to think, okay, before you make the decision. And in that few days, you should also think about, well, if I'm quitting, what are the kind of places should I go? And how do I know the next place is not going to be just like this one? What kind of research should I do? What kind of questions should I ask? What kind of things should I observe about this potential newer place, not to make the same mistake again? To the extent to which I can, right? Because sure, you can't just go up there and just say, okay, can I just sit here for 2 weeks? And then if I see all of you are nice guys and I'll sign up. I don't think people will allow you to do that. But for example, you can talk to people who are in those companies, right? Through friends, through network. Maybe you look at a website like Glassdoor, or some other, social website and say, hey, does anyone work for this company? What's it like? And then you just ask this question and just use different perspective to check it out. And then you kind of triangulate, overall, does the story kind of make sense? But yeah, I think quitting would be definitely one of the options on my table if the whole thing is kind of like, yeah, everybody's like that. Now, how realistic is that? I don't know, but I think it ranges, and I think it could get pretty bad, at least in a, let's say, department where that department is particularly more so because of the leader or the nature of the business, for example, right?
Or should someone just get on with it by adopting the similar behavior? Well, it comes down to the question of your personal value and
That's what I mean.
attitudes, right? So
Yeah.
if you, let's say you have tried to find another job, but you can't, and let's say this job pays very good and there's a clear career progression, then it's a trade-off between your personal value and money, right? So are you willing to sell your soul to the demon? So I think that's
it may not be that, but every day you go to work, there is going to be a dissonance. Rather than a resonance, there is a dissonance, right? Meaning that there are things that you do not connect with, but you are forcing yourself to be part of a chain because that's your job, okay? Over time, is there a risk that because you do it so often that you are becoming unaware that you're one of them? I think it's possible. How big is that price for you? Only you can tell, right? Yeah, it's a very personal decision. I mean, if the job pays you like $3 million a year and a new job pays you $500,000, I don't know, Francis. I mean, even I might say, you know what, I'm just going to put up with it just for a little bit more until I can't. I can't pretend that it doesn't matter. It does matter, in that kind of like a gap, right? But if the money is like 10%, 20%, I don't know. Maybe that thing is more important to you. So, is what you said is true. What is your value, and how important is it that the work that you do and the environment aligns at least similar to your value, if not exactly?
It's not just about the toxic behavior, but also ethical behavior, like the conduct, and just it might not necessarily be specific company, but it could be about that industry. So whatever industry, that might not be that ethical, but for money, for compensation, then sometimes people get into that industry, and there's different consideration for everyone. But it's up to them to decide, not for us to judge for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree. I think the people asking this question are more likely that there is a conflict that they cannot resolve, and it's uncomfortable that this is not being resolved between the work environment, values and ethics versus their own standard of value and ethics. So people would find this video useful only if they consider that important in their life of finding harmony between these two. For people who say, you know what, for the money I'll put up with it, they probably don't find this video that's useful.
Anyway, so any other feedback for such question?
No, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Thanks.